His GM Lawrence Frank informed Paul that he would not finish the season while the team is in Atlanta to play the Hawks tonight. Paul flew back to LA Tuesday night. Paul played 6 of his 21 NBA seasons with the Clippers. He's the franchise's all-time leader in assists and steals. Paul appeared in 16 games this season off the bench. He was averaging a career-low 2.9 points, 3.3 assists, and 14.3 minutes. Former Lakers center Eldon Campbell passed away early Wednesday morning. The cause of death has not been released. Campbell was 57. The 6'11 Campbell, who grew up in Inglewood and starred at Morningside High School, played 8 of his 15 NBA seasons with the Lakers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Happy holidays!
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Oh, glory, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up.
KBLA Talk 1580.
They say stay down and we stand up.
Well, I'm excited about this interview. We are being joined now by the president and CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He's newly elected. He's a graduate of Alabama State University. He's got a degree in finance from the College of Business Administration, and before he worked at SCLC, which has been some time, moving up the ranks there. He was in finance as a banker working in private client advisory. And so welcome, DeMark Liggins Sr.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. It's really nice to meet you. And I think we're also being joined by one of your colleagues in this particular issue that we are touching on this morning around the release of the sealed files of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So we're also being joined this morning by your colleague in that battle. Is that correct?
Indeed. That's our attorney, Charles Brooks, our legal counsel over at SCLC.
Attorney Brooks, are you on?
I am.
Okay, welcome. So let's start with the basic. The SCLC obviously. Oh, okay, we're having some little technical difficulties with the phones, but hopefully we'll clear that up. The SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, obviously is not alone here. But let's talk about your connection to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and why your organization, decided to try to protect these files, try to protect not just the release of the files, but how Dr. King's legacy is seen, how it is handled, and what history will show, once all of this trove of information comes into the public sphere.
Certainly. Well, I think, up front, I think the reason the SCLC is there is because we were the original plaintiff. So when the surveillance first came out and it was, challenged in court 50 years ago, the case was because Dr. King was our founding president and he was doing his advocacy as president of Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And so we all know the story with Hoover. We know the county intel pro, and they were surveilling him because he was working at SCLC. Of course, it's because it was him, but that was his job. And so we were the original plaintiff. We were the original plaintiff on the case at all. And so when Trump woke up and decided, hey, I think I want to look at this early, of course we were involved with it because we're happy about that. We're still here, and since we're the surviving plaintiff, we of course immediately, along with of course the lawyers committee, but jumped on this and made sure we went to court to say like we're going to stand up in front of this, because you just can't decide on a whimsical basis that you want to go against the judge's order.
So, and that is, I think you broke it down in really in a succinct way. So, Attorney Brooks, can you tell us kind of from a legal standpoint, the way that Mr. Liggins describes it is that President Trump said, hey, I want to release all of these files on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. early, even though there was an agreement that they would be held for 50 years. Explain why that's not legally sound, or does the president have the right to do that, and why right now it appears that the law is on your side?
The court didn't get into what the presidential discretion is, and that's a separate issue in terms of executive order power.
Okay, we're having trouble hearing Attorney Brooks's phone, so I'll pivot to you here while we fix that. President Liggins, why do what is your impression of why the president decided that he wanted to release those files early?
Well, that's always conjecture, right? And I think there's a lot of us personally. You think about this, and for me, when you think about that question, you really think about it in terms of like the totality of things that he does, right? What drives this current administration to do the things they do? There's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason. I can't really put my finger onto this thing. I do, it does feel like this kind of ongoing quest to find people or find moments in time that he can kind of go back in and release things for a variety of reasons that are often embarrassing or salacious or provocative, right, to the person he's dropped it in on. He did it with Ronald Reagan and some, with the tapes and the commentary he had with the representatives in the UN. Obviously, there's a lot of belief that there's something provocative in these tapes, and so I think he wanted to see that. And of course, I think some of it is just, it seems to be part of this administration's ethos to just keep things chaotic. And one thing I think we can all agree is that it's so much in the atmosphere. I was, obviously listening as we were coming in and you were talking about there's so much happening. And sometimes when there's so much happening, it keeps the rest of us from keeping up with where's the real things happening, because there's so many smoke screens going on at once that it's hard to figure out what's the target.
Right. But your organization, along with the family of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., wanted to stick to the original agreement, right, which was 50 years before the release of these files.
I think it's important to note, obviously, when this first came out, we made sure to reach out to the King family. We don't want to, particularly matters that are related to Dr. King's personal life. We want to make sure that we are, in sync and in step with what they would want to be happening. We hold that relationship dearly. But yes, we wanted it, but I think it's also important to note, we obviously don't want an early delay, but I don't think any of us actually really feel like the tape should ever be released anyway. I think that if it's determined that you were surveilling a private citizen for no particular reason besides counter intel pro, we're not really wanting the tapes to be released at all because we don't really think they should have ever been obtained. However, they definitely shouldn't be released early.
Yeah, I mean, from a outside looking in standpoint, as a radio host who does her best to keep up with the barrage of constant news in this administration, it feels like part of a plan to discredit or undermine King's legacy, as we see the devaluing of our Black history and the removal of monuments, the removal of signage and information, historical information from federal websites, while we're seeing the reinstallation of these Confederate symbols and statues, which are also obviously counter to our interests and our historical viewpoint. That's how it feels. I'm saying this just from my gut. I don't have any proof of this, but it seems like, you want to release files on Dr. King so you can cherry pick them, but you don't want to release files that might have something embarrassing about yourself, i.e. the Epstein files.
Yes, I think it would be difficult for people to not kind of see that connection, right? That, and I think that's anybody. Like I said, we're all citizens first, right? So when you're watching the news, you're looking at stuff, it's very hard to go, well, hey, this is what you're saying about this group of stuff, like, oh, we must release just in case there's something from 50 years ago that might be in the public interest, which I think is what their argument was, right? There's this public interest. In fact, the government's found, if I'm not mistaken, Brooks probably a little better than I am, but I think one of the government's points was that there was this huge interest in these tapes, and that's why we need to release it early, right? And then you kind of juxtapose that with their often very contemporary issues, including Epstein. But I would say we have an interest in Epstein. I think we have a lot of interest in what's going on with this Venezuela, with the boats that are going on and shooting, the blowing up of boats. I'm not going to go through a litany of things that I think the public has a deep interest in, but somehow it's not being released, right?
Yeah.
And so, it becomes glaring. And I do think it's important to know that for us as a culture, we know that 2 + 2 is 4. We can still see that a lot of things that are being enacted or removed are things that are victories to us, right? And a lot of things that are being replaced are victories to uglier part of our history, a more evil time of our history, and really a minority of Americans look up to the things that they're putting back in place and go, oh, I really love that. I don't think there's a groundswell of Americans that were chomping at the bits to redo the Confederacy, right?
Right.
But you see them getting their names put back on bases. I do think the overwhelming American feels like the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and I think the fact that America, I think people see the Civil Rights Movement as a huge positive for our nation. I think people value what Dr. King and Abernathy and Ella Baker and all these people are able to do. They see that as a positive. It's just in this particular administration, some of these, the popular stuff seems to be getting removed, and the minority stuff seems to be getting put it back in place.
It looks like we have Attorney Charles Brooks back on the phone. And you were in the middle of answering. You said the courts didn't rule on whether the president has discretion to overturn this or not, but the ruling still went in your favor, correct?
Right, because what the judge was focused on is what is the court or what is the government's motivation? So why do you want this, first of all, before he got to the power issue? And so there was only 2 real issues, and they said, they being the government, that there was a strong public interest in assassination of Reverend King, and number 2, the records have remained shielded from the public for long enough. Even the King family wants to know. Well, that was contradicted by the actual family. It's like, no, he didn't speak for us. We never said that. We never want to close. And the other issue that undermines the argument that I don't think is really being covered in the national media is there hasn't been an authentication process of these tapes.
Oh.
Let me give you my example. And this is something I've
Oh my, we're losing you again, Attorney Charles Brooks. But what? I had not even heard that argument, and we'll fix it, and we'll figure it out, and we'll continue this fascinating conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 remembers Robin Ayers on the 1-year anniversary of her passing. 1 year ago this week, we lost a remarkable and vibrant voice. Robin Ayers touched countless lives through her passion, her love, her service, and her smile, which you could see through the radio. KBLA Talk 1580 honors her memory and celebrates the legacy she left behind. Robin, your spirit lives on in every conversation, in every connection, and in every one of us, inspired by your voice. Gone but never forgotten. KBLA Talk 1580, where voices matter.
I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns. I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be 1,000,000 miles away. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Tremfya Kusakumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit tremfya.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Indeed, I do. Thank you. I hope we have overcome our technical difficulties. We're talking with DeMark Liggins, who is the national president of the SCLC, and Attorney Charles Brooks, who is their legal counsel. And Mr. Brooks, you were talking about the release of these files and surveillance tapes of Dr. Martin Luther King, which the Trump administration was pushing to make it happen early. And the judge sided with you, saying no. And you brought up the issue of authentication, which I hadn't even thought of, and is really interesting because I think, well, you could have completely authentic tapes and then you can insert some made up stuff too. Like you would actually have to verify every minute for me to feel comfortable.
Absolutely. And the judge even as, and I don't know if it's as an aside, I guess it'll be decided later, talked about the process to make sure that we figure out what's the best way for these tapes to achieve ultimate release. That's the last line in his order, because I think the notion of who's actually on which tape saying what at what time is crucial.
Carl Tucker's in my YouTube chat asking, what do we know what all this surveillance covers? Do we know, is it the house, the bathroom, the car, the church?
And we don't know until the process is completed to find out whose voice was attached to which tape at which time period, who did it and where. Was it during a protest march? When people are in and out of each other's hotel rooms. I know that personally, some things that happened in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was still working in the organization, even as a lawyer, but I was a part of certain protests.
So, and to your point, DeMark Liggins, that the family would rather they never get released. But right now, the next steps would be, if they are to be released, coming up with a plan so that it's done in a way that's respectful and historically accurate.
Yeah, and of course, and to Brooks's point, that even in the order, the judge said that we should use the time left to try to minimize harm and embarrassment. Right? There's no, what is the, again, if you're already illegally surveilled somebody to the chat, to the question in the chat, one would have to assume that this is an immersive thing. I mean, if you got the FBI surveilling you, there's no place they can't get to, right? And so, yeah, I think that if it's going to be released at all, it should definitely be something that we sit down and say, well, what is the point of what to Brooks's point, after you go through what is authenticated, who said what and why and how and when, but is this even necessary for people to know? I don't think there's anything in the public good. I don't think there's anything in the government's good to go through anybody's life and just say, well, hey, here's a random moment out of, in this case, Dr. King's life, and we just want you to know it's what his random life. But what's the point in that? There's no good that comes from that, and that's we'll be on the side of again, why we don't think it should ever be released, and we'll continue to say that.
I mean, it makes sense. What human being is 24 hours a day, living a life that's never, ever going to be embarrassing? The U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia denied the federal government's request for that early unsealing. But Attorney Charles Brooks, is there any kind of appeal that can happen here? Do the feds have any recourse in trying to push still for this to come out early, or is this the last word?
I believe, number one, you can always file something, but if they wanted to appeal it, that time is come and gone.
Right.
So I believe that they're willing to abide by it until otherwise. But however, what does abiding by it mean in a cooperative manner? There's a big swath of what that means for us as opposed to what it means for them. Right.
Originally, they were sealed for 50 years, and this is a court agreement, right? And they're supposed to be
Correct.
Released on January 2027, which isn't that far off, actually. What moves will you make, or can you make legally, for the ultimate goal of keeping them sealed in perpetuity?
There are some legal moves we're going to make. I'm not going to get into them on the radio at the moment because it's a chess match to get to where we are. But we do have some things that we intend to do that we think are within the confines of the order to make sure that everybody meets the goals and objectives that the judge wrote down and gave out as a roadmap toward a successful future.
To your point also, President Liggins, it's the surveillance is of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but all of the people that were in his sphere can also be on there. I mean, there's probably all kinds of civil rights movement figures that would be caught up in this web of surveillance. And so it could be a massive kind of campaign to discredit a lot of people, not just Dr. King, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you got to remember at the time, SCLC was, we were very much in the center of it. right? So of course everybody's coming out. There's no, and to your point, there's always no telling because we really don't know what's on the tape. We just know that the FBI decided to start surveilling private citizens at work, at home, at church. But I think there's no telling who can be on there. And of course, anything that's quote unquote scandalous or salacious depends on who's listening to it, right? So somebody's opinion on something might be salacious to a person. What we say in our private thoughts, what we say while we're formulating our thoughts. There's a lot of times, I'm sure when you guys are kicking around ideas for your show, angles that you're discussing, so on and so forth, you don't always want the angles that you might have considered. You might not even ended up at that angle, right? You're like, it's just an angle I was looking at. You don't want somebody to pull that out of context and go, well, she said this. That would be ridiculous, right? And so, but I think you're right. I think it could be any number of people. You think Dr. King, Andrew Young, the Bernard Lafayette, the Abernathys of the time, at the time. I mean, it was everybody. I mean, they and of course they were also in touch with the A. Philip Randolphs and the Young. I mean, they were, as it is today, the social justice is an all hands on deck movement, right? And so, of course, you're going to end up cross-pollinating with all the people because as much as we are proud of what SCLC has done, there were lots of folks, both prominent and not, that were part of this kind of movement to try to get, humanity and justice particularly for Black folks.
Attorney Brooks, is there any recourse if, let's say, the administration or somebody like, the social media icon who now is the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, if they were to, be mysterious leaks of certain information or certain tapes, what recourse would the family or the SCLC have?
Well, and to address it in two parts, because I want to address your question head on. The first thing is Judge Richard Leon did a great job of saying we're not going to have that. So he put together certain restrictions to make sure you wouldn't get that accidental leak of the actual tapes. And that's why people have been confused, because the thing that was released were the files, which the government holds in toto, about the assassination, as opposed to the tapes, which are in a totally separate category. But to answer your question, we're not concerned about it at the moment. But once you begin to scrutinize the tapes, leaks are going to be a problem. So we're going to have to put things together to make sure that doesn't occur and the family isn't damaged, or it's used as a political football and people say, well, this person must have been that person. You don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important, to your point, that the judge was really clear here that you can't just decide willy-nilly, even, for political reasons or sort of salacious interest or any kind of convenience, that you're just going to release something and override a prior agreement. And I think it's also, for me, heartening the fact that there was a consideration that we're talking about historical records here. But to your point, what hasn't been discussed as much is the authentication and whether these tapes should ever be released at all, or whether they should be put in a pile and burned. We've got news, traffic, and sports, and then we'll continue this conversation exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Outgoing New York City Mayor Eric Adams met with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, urging him to keep key programs.
All the things we've done, I want him to continue that success. And I think the best level of appreciation is duplication. And I think they're going to duplicate a lot of things that we've done.
Adams will share documents on his administration's accomplishments as Mamdani decides what to continue. Former Officer Derek Chauvin wants his George Floyd murder conviction vacated. He's filed a petition in Minnesota claiming faulty testimony and asking for a new trial or hearing. Chauvin is serving 22 and a half years, set for release in 2035. And Apple Music has named Drake its most streamed artist of 2025. The year's biggest song is APT by Rosé, and Bruno Mars tops the platform's annual replay list. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColidusFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
In somewhat of a surprising move, the Clippers released veteran point guard Chris Paul. The 40-year-old Paul announced last month that he would be retiring after the season. Clippers GM Lawrence Frank informed Paul that he would not finish the season while the team is in Atlanta to play the Hawks tonight. Paul flew back to LA Tuesday night. Paul played 6 of his 21 NBA seasons with the Clippers. He's the franchise's all-time leader in assists and steals. Paul appeared in 16 games this season off the bench. He was averaging a career-low 2.9 points, 3.3 assists, and 14.3 minutes. Former Lakers center Eldon Campbell passed away early Wednesday morning. The cause of death has not been released. Campbell was 57. The 6'11 Campbell, who grew up in Inglewood and started at Morningside High School, played 8 of his 15 NBA seasons with the Lakers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, this is Dominique DePrima. Is your loved one at the hospital or in a nursing home? Have they developed bed sores, fallen, or worse? These are things your family members should be protected from. Bed sores, falls, and dehydration are almost always the result of negligent care. If this has happened to your loved one, call Zoran at Basic Law Group at 800-215-1234 or visit basiclawgroup.com. The consultation is free, and if they don't win, you don't pay. That's 800-215-1234 to reach my friend Zoran at the Basic Law Group.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
In California, all workers have rights, no matter their immigration status. If you or a family member were detained by federal immigration authorities and did not receive your final paycheck, contact the Labor Commissioner's office. You can file a claim even if you left California or the U.S. Call 833-526-4636 from the U.S. or outside the country 001-833-526-4636. Document wage theft and report it to the Labor Commissioner's office.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
And we're glad that you are here. For those of you who are interested in traveling with me to the motherland, we are having a call on Saturday morning, a Zoom call. We're going to Zambia and Botswana this year. So if you want to learn more about that, go to africanfocus.org, or visit their Instagram, African Focus Incorporated. You can get the information so you can hop on that Zoom call. Talking right now with the national president and CEO of the SCLC, DeMark Liggins, along with their legal counsel, attorney Charles Brooks, about a recent ruling by a judge saying that no, the Trump administration does not have authorization to go ahead and release files, not files, but tapes, surveillance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. ahead of schedule and an early release, which is what they had asked for. It's still planned for 2027, and so many questions come up just listening to the conversation and the points that you've made so far. These could contain all kinds of intentional slurs and untruths and insinuations that could have been planted. As you know, my father was surveilled under COINTELPRO, so I'm pretty familiar with how dirty and tricky these kinds of operations are. So what happens next? Because even though the judge sided with the SCLC and the family of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the release is scheduled for 2027. Trump will still be president, and that is actually right around the corner. What's the next step? What's the next step for the SCLC? Like, what happens between now and 2027?
I guess I'll jump on this one. Brooks, you can step in, but I think that a lot of it goes back to, at least on our side, right, making sure that we are intentional and insistent on the last sentence in that order, where they talk about formulating a plan to minimize unnecessary harm and embarrassment. Right, that's something that we can. I think we can walk and chew gum. We can say that we don't want these tapes to be released, and still work and work with, or at least attempt to work with the DOJ to say, okay, well, hey, if these tapes are going to be released, how do we do that in a way that, doesn't harm? And again, I think a lot when you talk about COINTELPRO, the biggest problem is that there was no reason to do it besides it was intended to be salacious. It was intended to slur. There was nothing else. There was no other reason that they collected the data in the first place. I mean, there was no reason for the surveillance, right? And so, I think we can, all we can do, like we've always done, right? Just kind of keep pressing towards what we know ultimately is what's right. Because I always think justice is pursuit of what's right, even more so than what's pursuit of what's legal, So we'll keep pursuing justice. We'll keep producing truth, and keep trying to press towards, like I said, I preferred of nothing coming out. And if it does come out, do everything that we can to make sure that it is something that has some semblance of relevance and not just, a government manufactured, reality show. Because again, I think there was no reason for the tapes to exist besides to, we say embarrass, but of course, I think all of us know this was so much more. I mean, this was, psychological terror to the max. I mean, you're collecting surveillance and sending it to the family. You're doing all type of, things to mess with the minds of the person and the people that are in their orbits, the people that love them, the people that work with them. So, if that's what it's designed to do, I can't personally see how anything good could come from this. Right,
and also to discredit the movement itself and discredit the man. The King family, I'm sure, was happy about the ruling. Are they going to be working with you, working with the Department of Justice, working with the National Archives to try to come up with a plan? I mean, you said you can walk and chew gum at the same time, so you can try to strategize for how to make sure these things are never released at all, but at the same time work on some kind of plan for a more dignified rollout.
Yeah, we have been, along again, I want to make sure I shout out the Lawyers Committee out of D.C. During this whole process, we've all been in pretty constant communication, and I would anticipate that's going to continue. I wouldn't know why it wouldn't, right? So we want to make sure that, again, that we are, and on this particular case, like I said, we're the plaintiff on the case, but yeah, we have and continue and plan on. I can't imagine any world where we wouldn't make sure that we were, working in shoulder to shoulder, lockstep with the King family on this.
Attorney Brooks, I'm not quite sure how to phrase this question, but I guess the FBI, they have the right to do whatever they want. I mean, if you're surveilling someone and it can be shown that it's improper or that there was no compelling legal reason for it, then can they just go ahead and release it anyway? I mean, it's like, oh, I illegally or improperly got this information, but now I get to use it against you. Seems diabolical.
It does. And what you're really talking about is the constitutional right to privacy. And so there's a long list of cases, not only this one, but others, turning on whether or not you can bug a phone booth. I mean, I know we don't have them anymore. But at one point in time, that was really important, and the courts ruled, hey, if you close the door on the phone booth, you're doing it for privacy. So, no, they can't. So a lot of cases are turning upon public surveillance. And because we live in a world now that people walk around on their cell phones talking pretty freely in a public area, some of those things, they're absolutely, if you're doing something and you're walking through the mall talking about something illegal, that's absolutely in the public venue, they got you. When you're in your home, you have an assumption of privacy. And so they should have a reason to want to do it. And then what the third party is, and we would do a law school class if we covered the whole thing, is what's called exigent circumstances. In other words, they were doing something else or dealing with some other crime and they stumbled upon something. And that's the whole plain sight rulings. That's the reason why you'll have cops trying to look with their flashlight in the back of people's car, because they're trying to plain sight to get past the invasion of privacy issues, because you've left that very visible. So that's a whole other set of law. But back to your focusing on your question, the FBI has broad discretion when you're in public, broad discretion when they're chasing a crime. What they don't have a right is constitutionally protected issue, and I can't look at you and say, oh, she's liberal on this black radio station, she's probably up to something. That's wholly illegal to go into your private affairs about that. And it happened a lot, and I'm talking about in that time period, and it's not like tapes aren't thrown out every day across the country because either state or sheriffs or local police or FBI use it in a way that is not legal. And that's why lawyers have motions to exclude and dismiss this kind of evidence all the time.
Okay. And, we were talking about this, off the air, and this idea of releasing, if they have to be released, these surveillance tapes and records, how do we do it in a way that is, helpful to history, that helps to tell the story and increase our understanding of civil rights, as opposed to distorting it, undermining it, or trashing individuals? And how do you do that? How do you do that, DeMark Liggins, with an administration, a DOJ, that is clearly on a mission to erase and undermine everything that has to do with civil rights and anything that is helpful to black people? It seems like mission impossible.
Well, I think it's two kind of parts of that answer. I mean, A, you do what we can relative to the release of the tapes and we kind of been talking about that. Like, we will continue to do that. I think on the other side, the non-legal, I'm not a lawyer. That's why I'm glad Brooks is here. But I think on like on the side of the culture, right? I think it's a couple of things we got to take from this moment. If left to their own devices, we already know they're going to try to erase history, right? But let's be clear. They don't have the power to change the truth, right? They just don't. It doesn't really matter what he's thinking about doing or what this administration wants to do. We still have the power to go into our own communities and our own cultures and tell our own stories, right? And I think it's a good indicator that right now we need to think about as a culture, we need to get more provenance over our stories anyway, right? I think we need to make sure, because I don't all the way feel comfortable with a group of people that's been part of our oppression, part of the distortion, also owning the right to tell our story, particularly to ourselves and to our allies, right? We can at least tell our children and ourselves and our allies, this is the truth, right? It's as my old boss, Dr. Steele, say, what's the historicity of this moment, right? And so I think it's really important to, I just think it's a moment for us to really say, you know what, yeah, they're over here doing that. And it just shows why it's really important for us to be on our side, telling our stories, right? And I think there's anything to take from that moment is that, going back to what you were talking about earlier, when you think about propaganda from the right and how they have hundreds of stations all day that are just dedicated to telling their story, whether those stories have truth in them or not, they're telling them and their people are listening. And now they have folks that are dedicated to spitting out their talking points, right? We need that for our side of truth. Let's create our own. Let's make sure we have our own voices. Make sure we support stations like yours, shows like yours, or people out here telling our real truth and our real story. I think that's the biggest thing we can take away, because we can always do that. We can't affect what other people do, but we can 100% understand what we do.
I think that's right, and I think right now it's a toss-up. Who's winning that battle, right? We just found out when Elon Musk inadvertently showed us the origins of some of these accounts that we have foreign actors trying to infiltrate our relationships between black men and black women, between black people and politicians and political parties, and all of this online conversation and mis and disinformation. I think we're great storytellers, but right now I'm not sure we're winning the battle. And when we talk about preserving the history of civil rights and preserving and telling our stories of our resistance and rebellion, that's really key, because that's what encourages and inspires the next generation of leaders and reminds us of whose shoulders we're standing on and why we fight these fights and why we even care. And I'm not sure we're winning that battle. We'll have some closing arguments and final thoughts with DeMark Liggins, the National President and CEO of the SCLC, and his legal counsel, their legal counsel, Attorney Charles Brooks, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Hi, this is Dominique DePrima. Is your loved one at the hospital or in a nursing home? Have they developed bed sores, fallen, or worse? These are things your family members should be protected from. bed sores, falls, and dehydration are almost always the result of negligent care. If this has happened to your loved one, call Zoran at Basic Law Group at 800-215-1234 or visit basiclawgroup.com. The consultation is free, and if they don't win, you don't pay. That's 800-215-1234 to reach my friend Zoran at the Basic Law Group.
Unwrap LA this winter with Metro. Whether you're heading to a family gathering or last-minute shopping, Metro's got you. Enjoy free rides across Metro on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Move with joy. Move with community this holiday season. Go Metro.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Yeah, we're talking about the legal moves and the recent victory late last month for the SCLC and the family of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when a federal judge said, no, you're not releasing this surveillance footage, tapes early. You're not going to do it. You're going to wait till 2027. But it feels like it's a bigger issue. Talking with DeMark Liggins, National President, CEO of the SCLC, and Attorney Charles Brooks, their legal counsel. And the reason I say that is because right now I feel like we're holding the fort, we're holding the line against the erasure and distortion of not just Dr. King's legacy, but our entire history as Black people in this country. And as any people who are progressives, who are fighting for justice and want to see, fair and equitable treatment for everybody in this country, right? So what are the lessons or what are the advantages that you've seen, President Liggins, coming out of this case that might help with sort of this movement or this move to protect our history, to make sure it's told accurately and fairly?
Well, I think an important part of the lessons that we talk about right now, or something to remember, is that one of the reasons that we've been able to,
here we go.
The reason that in this moment the SCLC was able to stand up is because we were there, and we're not unsupportive of new groups, new movements. That's as young folks say, that ain't the time I'm on, right? But I do think as a culture, it's important to make sure that we undergird and support the organizations that brought the history at all, right? Because if you can always go back to the source, you can always get the information correctly, right? If we weren't still in existence, this probably would have had a different outcome, right? And I say that to say, and it's not just SCLC, but relative to what we need to be thinking about as a culture. Yes, it's great to have new stuff. We should always be new and press forward. I'm for all of that. But it's also important. We talk a lot about legacy. We talk about leadership. We talk about love a lot. But the reason we talk about legacy is because you have to maintain the original source of stuff. Because you'll once the source is gone, other people will start to change. People will start to change the real history, right? It's I don't know any way. I don't want to keep beating that horse. It's a personal point of passion of mine, right? But I just think it's really important to always, in our culture, I do think sometimes we're too quick to move on, right? We look at other people, other places. They are emphatic and insistent. They're like, you will never change our history. You will never tell our story incorrectly. Right, and we have this, and of course, some of us, we too often react to the community, to the country around us that are always telling us, you need to move on. But they only say that to things that are for us, right? We're about to go through a huge America 250 celebration, right? We're not going to move on from that. We're going to think about that moment and celebrate, the country's origin, etc. And that's fine for that point of history. I just think we need to take that in. We need to save that energy for us, right? When our history, in the civil rights movement, before the civil rights movement, even the kind of understood but unknown story of rebellion and resistance that is the Black American story. I think the Black American story is probably the best pieces of inspiration and perseverance to ever be written, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just think we need to always talk about the fact that who did it. and make sure that we can always, touch and uplift and at least preserve for our own selves our history. I think you were talking about it earlier. If we don't protect our history and you give it to somebody else, at any time they'll start kind of changing and modifying, or if not just completely lying about what the truth is.
Yeah, it's well said. Attorney Charles Brooks, why did the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under the law take this on? Why is this important from a legal perspective?
From a legal standpoint and an economic, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's why I was trying to jump in to say, let's just go with our history and military precision. The reason why bombers are protected the way that they are when they fly sorties or i.e. military operations is because of what black pilots who were red tails from Tuskegee Airmen came up with, okay? That's a notion that came out of black history that we apply to today to keep our Air Forcemen safe. Let's go with another aspect of history that's particularly the SCLC. The reason why we have such a strong connection with Germany, in part, is because the East German government, when they were trying to discredit the United States, used a lot of Martin Luther King's writings to say, hey, this is not a true democracy. So our connectivity to one of our most important trade, economic, GDP power countries in the top 5 is directly because of what black history changed. Well, if you change what the history is in terms of how that relationship, the relationship shifts. So there's actually an economic damage to the entire country beyond African Americans.
Yeah. And of course, the benefits of the legacy of the SCLC and Dr. Martin Luther King is also a benefit, not just to black people, but to the entire country. There's so many people that have jobs and rights because of Dr. King that probably don't even think of it that way. Thank you guys so very much, both for joining. DeMark Liggins, tell us how to follow you in the work of the National SCLC.
Easiest way to follow us is follow us on our socials. We're at National SCLC on Twitter and on Instagram primarily. We're on Twitter. You can get our YouTube channel at the same place as the National SCLC. And I have to say this. I know you didn't ask the question, but I would be remiss. I know I'm being beamed into LA. I want to give a shout out to Reverend Smart. He's our chapter president in the Los Angeles market. It does a amazing job, amazing work. We are always happy to work with Reverend Smart. We know he's been holding it down for us in the LA market for a long time, and I would be remiss to not give him a shout out.
Absolutely. We love Reverend Smart. Thank you for the shout out. And DeMark Liggins and Attorney Charles Brooks, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
And thank you for having us, and thank you for not just this story, what you do.
Much appreciated. Tavis Smiley is up next. Speaking of what we do, he's got a load of guests for you and some great topics. You do not want to miss that at all. Don't forget to tap in with me on social media. I'm at DiPrima Radio, DiPrima, and then radio. We're at KBLA 1580 on all platforms. Like my father, the late and great Amiri Baraka, used to say, history is, a man is either free, I'm mixing up mom and dad. History is now, and we're making it together. That's what my mama used to say. What my dad said, a man is either free or he's not free. There can be no apprenticeship for freedom. Until tomorrow, KBLA delegation, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Outgoing New York City Mayor Eric Adams met with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, urging him to keep key programs.
All the things we've done, I want him to continue that success, and I think the best level of